Hey, Arabs from Arab or Portland. See, the ice caps are melting and sinking, so you'd think that the shorelines would be rising, but no. And it's that way because the world is expanding. That's right, the world expanding Earth theory. The expanding Earth theory, stating that the planet is getting larger and larger as time goes by. So have as many kids as you'd like. We have enough fertilizer, we have enough land. Breed all you want. Overpopulation is a myth. Ever notice how overcopulation rhymes with overpopulation? Anyway, here we are again. That was my intro, and I use that as a logical argument that I personally don't adhere to, the Earth expanding theory. And you know, maybe it's true. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the Earth is expanding, but from my physics vantage point, I don't think it is. I don't think it is expanding. Not rapidly enough to just carte blanche say, you know, keep replenishing the planet. Anyway, I don't want to get into an antinatalist thing, but I did have some words with Gary about his relationship with the argument and kitty down. Women in the argument, as if they had anything to do with one another. And I was thinking about all the fun that puns and comedy and other things make of serious situations. And if you run your finger over, let's see if I can pull it up here. If you run, I should know. I mean, I should know what it says, but unfortunately I do not. But I know kind of what it says, so if I can't find it, then I'll kind of reveal it to you. What is dospook getting at? What is she getting at? It's when you rub your icon over somebody's. It's when you rub your cursor over somebody's icon. It'll tell you something about them. If you go to my home page, my channel home page. Let me see if it's on my channel home page while I'm telling people to go there. Oh. And then I'm on the About button. Okay, I immediately secure an idea on my home page, and it says, this channel is a series of great and often absurd arguments made out in the spirit of criticism via exception. Non-adherence to proclaimed ideas of truth is a worthy exertion of time and mind. So, I'm warring against models of truth, and so I have the liberty of logical breach. It's an artistic form, it's an artistic license. I think I'm quite well aware of when that happens. But this isn't to say that I don't take it seriously, and I believe in something roughly akin to a metaphysics, and it's only because of my experience that I say that. And so because I believe in that, I take liberties to not remain of perfect logical form all the time for the sake of punnery and associative lingual snakyisms. And to drive at other points of criticism. Now, is that mean? Is that mean of me to be the way that I am socially? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it really is. I picked on Anton with buffoonery. I mean, he could out-juggle me. He's, you know, he's teaching students philosophy and communications theory and so forth. So that's pretty intensive. And so you know, you got to give credence where, you know, credit where credit is due. Credence where credence is due. And anyway, so back to what I was saying, though, is that I have carte blanche, self-appointed carte blanche license to make absurd arguments. And I think that my arguments, although at times, you know, breach logical adherences in all manners, do reveal a point about the human condition, about the organism that is, you know, physiological, the organism that is primitive, pre-logical, pre-rational, pre-modernized. I mean, hell, when I was a kid, I didn't really have a concept of how the TV could relay color. I thought, how is this possible? Isn't it, you know, everybody sees the same color, or everybody sees a different color? So how does the TV know which color to show? You know, I got caught up in some sort of color, trying to figure out where color came from. And then it became more about why is color important, and then how do you nuance color, and, you know, what's the point of it? What are you driving at? So I'm doing these purple rings around the hand and the head of the clown. And for the record, the clown is nobody that I'm related to, even though there could be association with my mom, because my mom had curly hair and smoked and had a squarish jaw, but I wasn't intending it to be a family member. But who knows? Who knows? You know, a lot of everything that's up above a certain level in hell is part of Earth. It's part of the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day thought patterns. So anyway, so this idea of wanting to achieve truth, the desire to achieve truth, I'm more on a quest, finding a treasure than I am a truth. And that's where, you know, I think I'm a little bit more robust in certain considerations and a little, you know, a little more tangential in others. A little more sharp and bent. Oh, I'm missing a green. It's driving me a little crazy here. Oh boy. Where are all the Sherrys in the world? Green. Green is missing. Anyway, and so I wanted to. I'm almost having a harder time talking while I'm searching for stuff than when I'm painting. So everybody's got their model of truth, and some are even showing a tangential relationship with their bubble of truth relative to a greater organization of thinking. And I think a lot of truths have context. And I guess what I mean by that is like the idea of, the Earth isn't expanding, and so there's a finite number of space, and there's plenty of upward finitudes of population growth. And it's kind of like naysayers of greenhouse effect. Like, I'm really bummed about those people because, it's a finite amount of air with, a vague, and whatever that amount is, how far reaching it goes into space, that is our atmosphere, and we're pumping gasoline in one hole of a car, and out of the other hole comes, comes carbon monoxide, comes greenhouse gases, ozone depletion gas. Oh, I guess it's not ozone depleting, but the overall effect, I think, is ozone depleting. Okay, I still haven't found my green, and I started recording, and I was planning on painting green, so it looks like I have got to paint something else instead. So, I'm thinking paint the casket. Paint the casket. It's already kind of painted, but kind of run the brush over it again. I just think it needs to be a little bit darker. So, shades of consideration, whole different. You can be in a whole different mindset and a whole different attitude for every 7 seconds. Some people that are really lit up, follow things, their organization level, their engagement with their environment, their knowledgeable environment is very heightened, where other people, they're more relaxed, they're more consistent in the way they look at the world. They don't want it to be rattled. They're like a slow-moving creature in the ocean, and they're still human. Anyway. So that's my defense to any notion that my pattern recognition isn't without exception. And so I was watching Eric Orwell video, and he was talking about people's relationship with different gender voices. And he was bringing up more of authority patterns, patternings, and so forth. And then he even brought up disengagement, that you might not be able to be engaged with the other gender because you can't register, you're not properly registering them. And I thought about, when he mentioned that, I thought, um, that I had just recently accused, following a pattern recognition of Amendum videos. I was recognizing that he was really against women, and I hadn't considered the idea, that he may have not been able to learn to register women, and that lack of registration might be due to an adherence to logical form. The I'd rather be right than be happy. I'd rather be right than be happy sort of argument. And I don't mean that you shouldn't be right and be happy, as Carla points out, but if you have to choose one or the other, I guess in the end there's right, but part of life is also being happy, and that folds back. It's like philosophy is a blanket that keeps falling out of the sky, and it keeps folding on itself infinitely. And so the next thought gets to lay upon the past thoughts, and maybe more closely to just the most recent thought, but it coats over. It's like layering a cake or a lasagna with frosting or meat sauce or something like that. It's a whole different animal of existence, of thinking, of prioritizing. And so I believe there's a different type of, as Orwell mentioned, intelligence between men and women as a general rule. But then I also think that if you're sensitive enough and you're tuned in to horoscope theory, I guess, that you can sense which sign an individual belongs to based on the nuance of how they're engaging their social environment. And I used to test myself guessing, and I did fairly well guessing 11 out of 12 at a bar. I'd say that was pretty spot on, but I was highly tuned in. But the fact of the matter is I say I was tuned into something that was intelligible. I was tuned into an idea that wasn't about science. It was about relationship. And so it took a patterning that was significantly different than mere logical form. What to say? Now I'm looking for my brightest yellow. Great. Why don't I paint the fire orange for the time being? And then I can whiten it and yellow it in places. And I can go red in other places. That sounds fair. That sounds fine. Oh yeah. Anyway, so Pirro's spiritualism, I'm different than Pirro because Pirro does not believe in a metaphysic, no matter how hard he tries, no matter how spiritual his thoughts are. He's one covalent short of where my considerations are, and it's because he and for good justification, like I said, you can't make yourself believe in stuff you can't see and you can't demonstrate, and I've seen a couple of things and been involved with a few things, and I am a metaphysician, I guess, and that sets me apart from the rational community. It isolates me, and then it formulates. There becomes a sociological barrier. So yeah, so there's a sociological barrier that has occurred between me and then me and other people, and then me and normatives. So I'm breaking patterns with certain societal normative behaviors, and yet I'm still living, and I'm living within the society. It's just taken on a different form than it used to be. Okay, well, it might be time to play a few phone calls because I'm calling Faith to Grace out as being a liar. She keeps making these comments about my art and money, and she keeps saying she's going to help me with money. And I'm so absolutely tired of her bullshit. We've never exchanged a dime or a penny. I mean, we've exchanged a couple packages to each other with memorabilia, but that's it. And everything else, she keeps trying to underbid my art, and then she keeps throwing shit out. And she just doesn't, she doesn't know if she wants to be public. She wants to be thrown in, but she doesn't want to be thrown in. She's too nervous, so she, barely shows her face in videos unless she's preparing to speak a a breath of her soul. But I don't know. I mean, I like her in the fact that she, you don't have to be a truth teller in all cases around me, but I really get tired of the consistent lack of truth. And I guess, of that same accord, I should sum up my thoughts on on suffering, but it's a vague topic for me, and yet people are convinced that there's some sociological event occurring with me that is causing me to avoid the same logical conclusions that Amendum brings up about his philosophy. When in fact he already admitted that if he saw anything metaphysical drive across his room, it would change his philosophy, and it would change it rudimentarily. So anyway, that's my self-justification. Self-justification. Let's see how I'm doing here. We're still going. We're still going. The yellow even looks more yellow in the camera than it does in person. And I guess that kind of brings me back to that whole solipsistic, idiolectic, personalized engagement with one's adult universe. I also noticed you can draw things out of art, authorial intent. The one time I taught in a communications class was in northern Arizona State, and I did it on authorial intent. And the whole idea was to say that bullshit has weight. So if you can introduce bullshit into the conversation, it's going to take on, or it's going to have a real form to it. And that's important to realize. And I mean, granted, I did this before my mystical experiences, but I was still intuiting that. But anyway, my point in saying that is that sometimes people extract meaning from proximity of topic And I'm guilty of doing that on a comment that I left on Orwell's latest video. Um, but I was sensing that he was sexualized in his tangential thoughts. He brought up sex, and then he brought up Viagra, and he brings up things that I think are reflective, like a Freudian expressions of his metabolism. And I'm thinking, well, he is in his mid-20s, I'm guessing, and so he's got to have that youthful spring in his step, so to speak, that youthful attitude, sexualized hormonally, uh, aggregate. I don't know, that's not the word. I'm thinking more like agile, but that wasn't the word either. Anyway, and then I've been listening to Tween 2.0, and this guy reminds me of a friend I have in town in that he rambles and he makes his own sense of things as he rambles. So it's kind of a shout out video, even though I disagree with a great deal of what he's saying. You know, I kind of like listening to what it is he's saying. Anyway, so Gary threatened to not listen to my channel anymore. That's right, Gary. You're not going to listen to my channel anymore. How dare you? How dare you shut out my obscene thoughts? How dare you fail to take on the challenge of administering logical blows against my obscene thoughts? You chickened out, you cowered out, and then you bailed out. You didn't want to go over it. My best shot in the game, my best shot in your game, you don't even want to go over it. Should I call it my best shot? Maybe it's my second best shot. We'll see what comes to mind in the future. Anyway. Working on a project, talking to a camera, people are listening. People walking outside my condo, listening, maybe. So I'm delicately avoiding dipping the yellow paintbrush into watered down with blue vat of water. I keep putting it in the yellow water and remembering to do so. Make sure you remember to do so for the time being. Things like that. All right, where are we? Go. You know, for you guys to watch this, it's got to be crazy. I mean, that's a lot of time to watch somebody fill in some yellow. Excuse me, wow. So Derrida even admits that he can be deconstructed. He admits you can follow him, that by following his lead, you go into a particular area of philosophy. And so I was thinking of the idea of not quest for truth, but quest for discipleship. If like people listen to me, I think because I have some sense of perhaps there's some sense of discipleship, but I think that occurs with just about everybody who you really get tapped into on the tubes. But why the misdirect on truth as a purposeful thing? It's to point back at an emotional state where your mind is, so to say, in so much suffering that it logics out. It fails to be logical or reasonable anymore because the body is simply scrambled. And to make note of the suffering people in their own language, so to speak, where they themselves are not logically coherent by necessity in their times of trouble. It's not to say they couldn't be, it's to say there's a point when logic falls away in the psyche and old age dementia in people's eyes. So there's this quest for truth that requires an empathy of dismantling truth, so you can really truly be empathetic with those people who have lost all the faculties. And so I run as a type of grazing over truth crops, truth models, to implore a little bit of surreal havoc over the model. And partially it tests the model, the model's resilience, and at the same time it promotes an empathy with the idea of the human animal as it stops questing for truth, and it accepts its environment instead of quests through its environment. It's a different yogic meditation. I got to a point where I was ejaculating inside, and my friend said, well, that's some heavy yogic shit. And by ejaculating inside, meaning my ejaculate went into my bladder instead of inseminating nor disseminating. It self inculcated, and so that happening was a sense of loss of youthful sexual vitalities. The yoga had gone on before. No longer was I the same creature that ate and screwed and slept and desired, had a sexual appetite. The sexual appetite was not running behind my consciousness. It runs behind my consciousness still, but in a different manner, with a different, a different driving force behind it, different hormonal level. And my point being is that at one point I was listening to Nietzsche talk about if God was a woman, what if God was a woman? And I used to think of women whom I had sexual relationships with as goddesses. And so it was a type of, I don't know quite how to put it, a type of a blessing ritual. Sex itself became a religious event in my secular religious view. So this is a creative, creative memory, or reevaluating my memories, re-extracting meanings from my memories. I would see women as goddesses, and so the idea of feminism was natural for me, a defense of women, even though I understand misandry and women's control, a lot of women's control issues over men and power, and that's becoming more and more clear to me as older I get. But anyway, I wanted to say that there was a transparency between sexual drive, women as goddesses, and if women were goddesses, then they were like the ultimate of truth incarnate, because it was an event that was happening at the present, so it was the most empirical of events. And that played a role in what truth was. Instead of saying if God was a woman, what happens if truth was a woman? And so this idea of maintaining logical form to always chase a sexual drive, a historic desire to copulate. It's the irony of antinatalism. It's the Kurt Cobain killing himself, that if Gary became super rich and famous somehow and all over the airwaves with his philosophy, would, he would probably attract more women, and then he would have to cast them away, as he normally does, because he doesn't want that copulative energy to be around him when, his supposed nature is um, desexualized. Something like that. Oh boy. See, now I'm really upset at myself because I'm running out of this yellow paint. There it is. I was just going to say, and I misplaced the yellow paint already. Lose faith in myself to find the things that I've lost. Yeah, I don't think Gary reads enough. He mistakes certain mathematics for logical form, but he's got a logic to what he's saying. Everybody senses it. They would be able to call him out on it otherwise. The thing I found interesting through my carrying ons is that there wasn't anybody making an exact um, argument against my argumentation. Well, there was Trick helped with that. I guess Poodle Susan attempted to help, but it's as if I wasn't explaining what was going on enough for the audience. I guess I leave the audience vague, kind of like this video might leave the audience in vague form. Ah, I don't know, Penny. But the whole idea of these painting videos is that it's a guided meditation that's slightly visible, and it's there's evidence of each spot, each topic being pulled through in coincidement with the paint that's going down. And so there's something as a record that's maintained with an artifact that has some sort of appeal to some people. And it definitely has appeal to me, meaning I like to see this in retrospect. It's so interesting to see yourself after time goes by, just what changes are made, the subtle changes. Anyway, so if anybody has any comments to me about my style or about anything I've ever done in the past, feel free to lay it on me. I'm okay listening to it. Maybe I'm just being stubborn. I'm this like a chef in the kitchen, and lamb is for dinner, and all I want to do is make SpaghettiOs. I'm throwing a fit because no one else wants me to make SpaghettiOs, but I'm making them for myself, and then you guys are watching me. It's all so complicated. Anyway, maybe that's enough for... I'll see if it oranges up if I get closer. Yeah. Well, there's the base coat. Yeah, probably a good time to end the video. Kitty wants to play. Come on, Kit Kat. Now I gotta paint the other fire while I've got the yellow out. Yeah, that's right, Kitty. You're just here for a little cat intermission. That's right, Kitty, Kitty. Cat intermission and righteousness. Well, let's do that thing. Yay! I don't think my cat likes to be picked up by the front paws. It's one move she doesn't seem to be too happy with. Try to make her happy. Try not to be unhappy with her. Oop. Okay. Anyway, she's got crap in her hair. Needs to be cut out. Or washed out. Cut out would probably be easier. Anyway, yeah, I'll hang up this one. No, I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna paint, talk, put the kitty down. What else to say? Yeah, the technique of truth admonishment, or stopping the chase for truth, is, I think it sprouts from an intellectual concern to be honest about the human condition, to be honest about the the maximum multitude of variables that the universe has to offer, where one would say they're satisfied enough with what they have to develop a notion of true truth, an entirety of truth. That's what's annoying. That's what gets my goat. That's what drives me when I wake up. And it's from seeing people, including myself, eat their own shoes, if that's a phrase. Eating their own words. Eat your own shoes. It's like that. What you walk around in, what you believe, what you reiterate, what you keep telling yourself, what you tell others, the persona you're trying to put off. I don't know. I agree that logical form has its business in this world, even though I keep, I refer to this dimension we live in as a covalence, that we can't get our thinking out of the covalence, but if a different covalent entity, a different metaphysic showed up, then all of a sudden it ungrounds this notion of a completeness of truth that's only viewed from a singular covalence. And if there's one covalence, maybe, we're on, if I've sensed another covalence, then we're at least on a hydrogen molecule relative to metaphysics. I mean, helium molecule with 2 electrons. Oh, no, that's not covalence. Covalence would be, what is it, 2 on the beginning one, so it would be 3, whatever the third element is. And then what, you get 4 on that, so there's 6. So you get to carbon, and then the next covalence to the third level, I guess, is whatever the 8th or 7th atomic weight material is on the atomic weight chart. The atomic weight chart. Periodic table of elements. The atomic weight chart. See, it's that kind of difference that humanity can run down. To buy my used cars, $59.99. Oh, yeah. So the reason I got into truth bending had partially when I was painting this painting, and there was a man with a sword sitting at his throne, and then there was this drippy sort of weird organism behind him. And a friend of mine, that couldn't match up with gravity, and a friend of mine said, "Don't you want your paintings to line up with physics?" And I just kind of looked at him oddly, like, "Of course not. Then it would be a photograph. But what's the point of that?" And then earlier today, I was looking at this painting, and I was thinking, God, this is me, like, wrapping individualized units and illustrating these units and not, having really wacky lines or overlays or texturized elements, just a pretty straightforward illustration that kind of delineated each element, or lineated each I guess you say delineate, maybe when you're talking about delineation, same thing with acceleration, even if decelerate isn't the proper word, you're still accelerating because you're changing your motion. Anyway. What I'm impressed with, or kind of not impressed with, is the lack of the ability for camaraderie to occur on the tubes. It's so vacant of that. You can like somebody, but I guess like Piro's Google Hangout, that was pretty cool, I thought, because there was a sense of camaraderie, and the guys remained on the topic, which I would have a hard time doing, and they were pretty insightful. There was some good conversation there, enough to get Piro's blood pumping. So that was cool. Boop, 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 boop. Thanks for the memories, and now it's time to go. Thanks for the memories. Sorry I called your wife a hoe. Thanks for the memories. See, and now that would be, if someone said, okay, Mike is taking on misogynist form because he made that lyric, that might be a way to say, are my words sex centrific? Are they misogynist? Are they racist? Are they kind? Are they easygoing? You know, how, you know, I have a sense of self that I'm pretty, I'm pretty contained guy, and I think I'm pretty polite. I try to be, and I admonish other people's bullshit behavior because I think it's just asinine. Rather pick on Gary the man any day over Gary the argument, and that would just be mostly to mess with his head. But he's not listening to my videos anymore. That's fine. Dropped you off and I picked up Wayward Horizon. That's right, everybody. Wayward Horizon. He subbed to me. How do you like me now? Why, I'm one old goat. See, my beard is hanging down to there now. So I need to get some mustache wax and turn that frown upside down. Yep. Okay. Well, I think I have all the fire done. I think. I know there's more yellows to be placed in this thing. Perhaps it's not time to paint it now. Yep. 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 Okay. Right on. Thanks for wasting time with me. Love ya.